Hello everyone, my name is Loco, and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg, where we're finding ourselves on Neon Violet Square. Now I've heard that this is a bit of a banger when it comes to top level StarCraft, and it's a long match of Terran versus Zerg, so who do you think is playing? I mean, I've recently introduced our Terran player here in the exact same way. Of course, this is none other than Spirit. Spirit loves making command centers. This man, when he wakes up, well, I mean, at night as well, he just thinks about command centers, he dreams about command centers, and when he's far ahead, sometimes he will go in for the kill, but more often than not, he will build additional command centers. And of course, it's an entirely valid way to play, but there is nobody else that loves playing late game Terran as much as Spirit. Now, his opponent, this time around, somebody who's not scared of playing late game per se, when it comes to going up against Terran, but this is not Rogue, who was the previous opponent in a series that I did cast featuring Spirit. This time around, we have SHIN. Now, SHIN and Spirit should be an absolute banger. I think across the board, SHIN is a very strong player, and he's starting off this game with a cheeky little gold base first. You'll love to see it. So obviously, everybody in the StarCraft world knows that Spirit likes playing macro. And a lot of players don't necessarily want to sit down for like an hour-long series if they, well, don't absolutely need to. There's a lot of best of threes, best of fives, and when you're playing an entire, well, say like a best of five against Spirit, you might just have to set up, you might just have to set apart like 3 hours of your day, and it's a lot. It's mentally also extremely exhausting to play long drawn-out macro games. So this, at the very least, should provoke the Terran player just a tad. Now, I'm saying it, I have seen Spirit actually deal with this before in a previous game that I saw Spirit play against Zerg on this particular map. And he scouted that indeed it was a quick gold base first, but then he just completely ignored it. He just didn't do anything about it. He didn't care. So he's probably going to find out in just a moment. I wonder if he's going to adjust his build order at all. Spirit doesn't always set himself up for a long game. He may just have to go for something a little bit more aggressive if he sees this, but yeah, now he's gonna see the lack of natural. This can now either be a one base, like Roach all-in, something along those lines, or something a little bit safer. He checks. You saw him click right there on the gas geyser. He saw that there's no additional mining, no Roach War, no Baneling Nest, none of that. He knows that exactly 100 gas was mined, and that already means that 1 and 1 is 2, and it can only ever be a gold base very, very quickly. Now, a bunch of slow Zerglings go across the map here for SHIN. He does not arrive in time to actually slow down that command center, but this is still going to be a bit of a nuisance. Reaper, of course, is going to have to go all the way back home. He's not going to be able to do the big switcheroo here to get the Hellions pumping 2 at a time, because obviously if you lift up the barracks now, well, the Zerglings are going to run in. So all of this is a little bit annoying. Now we have a split as well on the Zerglings, just to try and keep at least 2 of them around, rather than clumping them up together. Well, he's trying to see if he can sneak them away. Link speed is just about to finish up, so maybe he can keep 3 of them around? Don't think so. Sorry about that, Lenny. Sorry about that, buddy. It's a sad moment. But the Reaper, well, he gets the job done here eventually. Now, of course, how does Spirit celebrate this momentous occasion? We put down a 3rd command center. We're going to go into a starport. Tech lab coming up. This will be triple CC Hellion benching. All of this, of course, is 100% standard. This is what we see, I want to say 9 out of 10 games in Terran vs. Zerg from Terran players. In my mind, it really is Clem who popularized this, although it was around for a lot longer than Clem has been. But Clem is somebody who played this basically every single game against Zerg. He just did the same strategy over and over and over again. And we've learned over the years, of course, Clem now the world champion of StarCraft 2, that this is not a build that has any real weakness. So obviously there's moments where you can mess it up, but technically speaking, this is the easiest way to start up a big macro game as Terran without really needing to deal damage on the other side of the map. So Spirit is going to be behind a little bit here as far as workers go, but obviously the mules are going to make up for most of that difference, and he's going to be able to keep his bases alive. He can put on a bit of pressure. Banshees are going to be hitting the battlefield too, and then we can make a transition towards that good old bio with Stimpek. Now, this Hellion is going to die. The other Hellion already died too. What about the ones over at the gold base? It's a nice attempt. 1 drone, 2 drones. Not quite what you're hoping for. Roaches are going to be moving across the map right now as well, but of course the Banshee is already here. Yep. Spirit should probably be sending that one out on the offensive, but he's a little afraid of roaches slipping around the site, so he's not going to take any chances. The wall over here is not yet completed, and even though we do have 4 roaches trying to slip around the site, I think 2 Banshees will be able to make very quick work of that. No problem. Okay, Lair coming up here for Shin. Shin, of course, mostly just focusing on building up his economy here. We've had a little bit of poking, a little bit of prodding by the both of them, but neither of them really too committed. Double engineering bay here at the front. 3rd command center in... No, actually, 4th command center in the back. As we have the 3rd one now flying down to the low ground. I actually expected this command center to go over there and then the 4th to be a planetary fortress. But apparently Spirit believes that he can get away without a planetary in this location. Which is fair enough, he might just be right. Okay, another barracks is building. 2 more inside of the main base. Double Evo chamber coming up as well on the other side of the map. Shin now building up his own 4th base. More Hellions moving around, but this has all the signs of a nice long macro game. See if the Banshees can achieve something. Maybe they can distract the Queens for long enough to allow the Hellions to go in. That's exactly why the Zerglings are now running in this direction, though. Yeah, he's got some creep spread in that area, so he must have noticed that there were Hellions trying to march around the perimeter. Okay, let's put in our guesses. How many command centers is Spirit going to make in this game? Now, I don't really know exactly how long this game is, but I know it's a bit of a longer one. Ooh, as we do have the Zerglings slipping through. Getting a siege tank here would be nice. I'm going to say 24. 24 is a lot of command centers. Oh, nice. Lift the depot. Yep, command center, or sorry, siege tank over here lives. It's actually so important. Any follow-up attack from Zerg, I mean, we really should repair this bad boy back up. I'm assuming we will here in just a moment. But any attack from the Zerg is going to be way more defendable when you've got yourself a siege tank at full hit points. Any additional siege tank down here is great. Now, interestingly enough, Shin is going Baneling Nest together with a Hive. He is researching Missile, however. So that's a little bit funky. I guess we're going, well, just the +1 Missile and then into melee. Banelings do benefit from the melee research. So do Zerglings, and ultimately Zerglings are much more important than Roaches in this matchup. Either way, 2nd factory right now coming up at the front. Double armory as well. It was really quick for the double armory. Generally speaking, you get 1 armory at this point in time, so you can fire up the 2-2 research. Spirit going into double armory already. Either he accidentally made an extra one, or he's planning on playing biomech? Mech bio? I don't know what we even call this. I think it's a mistake, actually. I don't think he intended on it. Ghost Academy coming up. Barracks 6, 7, and 8. On the production tab. And this is, of course, a very large map with lots of opportunities for expansions. And also, well, let's be obvious here. There's a lot of very easy attack paths. Really, the only way that Zerg can reliably attack is through the center. Maybe a drop in the main base. Maybe a Nidus Worm in the main base. And I guess there's this alleyway over on the left side, like almost like this corridor-looking shape. But siege tanks from the low ground can help protect that too. It's not an easy way to engage. There's one way, though, that you can get some damage in, and that is, of course, with the Vipers. Shin now building 2 of them. He is indeed going melee upgrades here. I would love to see Adrenal Glands coming up, and since he's not making it, I'm assuming that we are planning on doing a big attack as soon as the Vipers have energy. You can abduct the units, blinding cloud the units. I mean, this is the bad boy over here that has got 8 confirmed kills. There's Adrenal Glands, by the way, coming up. Important upgrade. A little bit of micro in the middle of the map. Brenda wanted to get lucky. So did those corrosive biles. She's up all night to spread creep. She's up all night to She's up all night to get lucky. Okay, fine. Fine, I won't do that to you. I won't do that to you. You're gonna have to, yeah, wait for the Loco TV singing channel. Ultras? Shin! Shin, stop it! Shin! 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 Shin, stop it! Don't make the Ultra Cavern! Every time I see an Ultralisk Cavern in 2025, it results in a Zerg loss. I don't like it. I mean, it's not entirely true. Some games, there is a Zerg win. So remember that amazing game that we saw? I believe this was actually Spirit versus Rogue at the time. where Rogue started off playing similar to what Shin is doing over here. Then he transitioned towards Ultraling Bane with a little bit of Spellcaster support. And then, in the ultimate late game, he went into Swarm Hosts. Now, I didn't believe in the strength of the Swarm Host until I saw it. Swarm Host, at the appropriate late game moment, he had like 80 workers or something, and he made the transition to like 20-something Swarm Host. Swarm Host at the correct opportunity, incredibly powerful. When Terran is super turtled up, and I think that's what we have over here. Swarm Hosts are pretty neat. This is not a Terran player who's looking to go anywhere anytime soon. We have some Metavex to deal some damage, but any lost supply right now will be replaced with something else. Siege tank production well underway. He's building up 3 additional command centers. The 4th one just finished up over there. Ghost production has begun. Yeah. And the neon violet squares over here, the neon violet cubes, they are making it difficult for Zerg to get a proper engagement in. So he's got the Ultra Cavern. Will he actually do anything about it? Will he do anything with it? Well, so far, I don't believe we have any use case for it yet, but maybe they'll be here to replace the Ultras, or the Roaches rather. He's going to replace those, I guess, with Ultralisks. All right. Fusion Core coming up, 2nd Starport on the production tab, Infernal Pre-Igniter being researched, 4 or 5 additional command centers. Dude, if you showed me just the timestamp in the game and then the production tab line, I would have been able to guess that this is Spirit. Only Spirit plays like this, man. It's amazing. It's an acquired taste of StarCraft, I'm not gonna lie. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily love... I mean, I like watching this. I love casting this. Playing against this sort of thing is not my favorite cup of tea, but it is nice. It is nice from time to time. If every single game of Terran looked like this, I think we'd all grow tired of it pretty fast. Most Terrans, though, don't like playing like this at all. Spirit is the only one that consistently does it, and you know, I've noticed he's got a pretty significant fan base all on his own. Just because he's the one playing like this and nobody else does it. Look at this positioning. 11 siege tanks set up. I mean, this feels like it's about 20 siege tanks. The way that he's got all of this turtled up. Ay, 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 ay. How many command centers can a man make in one game? There is, by the way, such a thing as an upper limit to the amount of CCs you want to make. I'm not exactly sure how many you should produce, but it seems like when you go over, like, say, 25 or so, it starts becoming a waste. Like, yeah, technically speaking, all you need to do is get 2 mules, and then the command center will be paid for. But also, there's a very finite amount of resources on a StarCraft 2 map. And because of that, it seems like you kind of start losing value when you go above, like, 25, which is still a lot. Shin going for a very expensive trade here, but he wants to shut all of this down, yep, before it really lays eggs. He's accepted that he's not going to be able to push through the center of the map very easily, but this attack over here is actually quite successful. Yeah, Planetary goes down, bunch of siege tanks go down. Tactical Nuke in the meantime, though, flies across towards the natural expansion of the Zerg player. Ghost chilling at the bottom of the ramp. Push over here as well towards the bottom left. Tactical Nuke, though, not spotted. And Brenda and Karen, they're dead. Drop over here also has taken care of some of the defense. And he's just going to right-click the hatchery now. Lovely push here by Spirit. Even though he was forced to cancel some command centers, I think he lost maybe like 500 minerals or so of unfinished structures there. Not the end of the world at all. This Ghost is now going to get eaten by Zerglings. A little bit unfortunate. Drop continues in the main base. There's one Ultra there. Wow. It did so much damage. Did you see it? Wow. Here's another one. Well, I mean, too much Zerg over here to really stick around any longer. Push over here in the north, by the way, kills another Zerg expansion. So, the general game plan here for Spirit is to trade as efficiently as possible and then gobble up as many minerals and gas as he can. So that's the general goal. What he's trying to do is build up this income advantage. as much as he can. Like, the resource advantage there is absolutely critical. He knows he's never going to be able to trade, you know, 2-to-1. That would be extreme, but that's effectively what he's aiming for, right? Like, he's trying to get... Well, I mean, we're almost there now as far as minerals goes anyways. He's trying to get extreme value. So, the downside for playing Zerg in the late game is that you don't really ever can make an army that will be nearly as efficient as Protoss or Terran. So, you need to trade by having, well, more resources than them and then overwhelm it. So, if Spirit can hypothetically mine half of the resources on the map, he's obviously going to be massively ahead because of the efficient trading. So that's his goal. He's trying to just build up as many command centers and slow push and just harass wherever he can, just to slow down and potentially get the Zerg player to lose a couple bases like this. These are all traits that he can be happy with. But ultimately, he's trying to prevent the Zerg from mining half of the map, whilst trying to gobble up as much of the map as he can. And it's okay as long as you mine, I think, probably like 40% of the total map's resources, but that's effectively the win condition he's aiming for. So mine 40 to 50% of the map with friends like these. Who needs SCVs? That's what my mom always said. Do we want to have a little look here? Yeah, I think it's happened a few times before. You know what this mineral line needed? More mules. Jeez Louise. That is a massive income advantage, by the way. So that's the advantage, not the total amount of income. His income right now, extremely high. All right, well, double Nidus network coming up. Infestors on the production tab. Ranged research for lurkers. +1 air attacks for the Zerg 2, even though we haven't really had any flyers other than Vipers, and they don't benefit from that upgrade. Additional factories coming up. 3-3 researching here already. It's already finished for the vehicles. 6 additional command centers on the production tab too, might I add. So we're at 3. Where's the orbital commands? Am I blind? Oh, there they are. 11 of them. 14 and then okay, we have a lot of command centers. We'll have to do some counting near the end of the match to see how many CZs it's going to be. Now, these traits are garbage. These ultras have just been a complete waste of resources. Not ideal. The Zergling together with the Overlord trying his very best, or trying their very best to get all of this going. I think Shin is really starting to feel the heat now, though. Double Nidus Worm in the back of the Terran's main. Fair enough. Medevac drop, though, arriving nice and early. And I think, actually, in theory, Spirit's gameplay is probably perfect. Like, if you can force this type of game, I think on basically every StarCraft map, assuming you play perfect, I don't think you can really lose. It's just extremely difficult to execute fully efficiently. And every game takes about half an hour or so at minimum. But I can, yeah, I can imagine that the theory of this strategy, at least for Spirit, if you look at a Excel spreadsheet, this might be the most efficient way and the most optimal way to play Terran. Rather than relying on all the micro tricks that somebody like, for example, Bjorn is capable of, or somebody like, for example, Clem likes to execute, full parade pushes and mass aggression all over the map. That's a viable way to play, but it's technically unreliable. Very difficult to micro perfect every single time, and when you accept that your micro is never going to be up to, for example, Clem's standard, well, this might just be the next best thing. He's doing a good job so far, actually, playing Nidus Whack-A-Mole. It's easy to get these Nidus Worms to go up, especially when you don't have that many Marines and Marauders anymore, which is kind of funny. Yeah, we have 0 Marines. We have, look at the army here. It's actually kind of an embarrassingly small army. 1 Widowmine, 5 Medevacs, 11 Liberators, 5 tanks, 14 Ghosts. Like, what is this army? This is not an army meant for killing. This is an army for, well, tower defense. Okay. So for Shin, it is critical that he mines one of the bases that Terran will be aiming for in the long run. The most obvious ones are the ones in the top right and then the ones in the bottom left. That's also exactly why Spirit is starting to make the long push for this expansion all the way up here. And he's currently setting up a nice line of defense for the Zerg expansion. How nice is that? He's helping Shin make sure that this is going to be very well protected. And then he's going to take some of the minerals and eventually get rid of the hatchery too, I'm sure. Knight is where I'm now to continue denying that base. But honestly, this is just it's just a matter of time. I don't think this is mineable for the Zerg at all. Likewise, of course, the other shared expansion is the one in the middle on Neon Violet. So this base and then the one mirrored on the other side. I feel like those are the two contested bases. So if Spirit can take this position, as well as the one in the far top right, and I believe that so far these are practically unmined. If he can mine the both of them, and then also secure this expansion eventually, not really a rush on that. So we do have a bit of a Zerg attack, by the way. 23 SCVs end up going down. Honestly, feels like a gift, though, for Spirit. I don't think he really cares about losing that many SCVs at this point. He can just replace them with mules. But if he can mine all of those 3 additional expansions, so this one, and then the one on the far left, I think this game is in the bag. Now, it's going to take a little bit longer. It'll still be a little while until Spirit can mine all of those out. But if he's given another 10 minutes or so, with mules maybe, 10 minutes is probably about accurate, you should be okay. Do we have a, oh, we have a double Ghost Academy. I see. I was wondering where that nuke came from. Because it wasn't from the one in the main. We have 2 Ghost Academies set up. Nuke over here just to be a distraction. So the base in the far top right can indeed be cleaned up. This command center can now land if he wants it to, but I don't think that's really the main goal. Looks like Spirit is actually slow pushing planetary fortresses. Oh, dude. You know, one of the most popular types of custom maps in the StarCraft arcade, the Warcraft arcade, any arcade game ever is always tower defense. And this is as close to a tower defense as you can have while playing StarCraft at a high level. It is honestly glorious. I feel like this is the type of game that feels amazing to Spirit. Look at him, slow pushing planetaries. Leapfrogging siege tanks. 700 APM for Shin, by the way. Getting a little out of hand there. A little bit inflated. Now, I can never quite, and this is one of the things, a little asterisk right next to the Spirit games. I can never quite figure out if the other top-level Terrans don't play this because they don't like playing it, or because they believe that it's not that strong. Like, we see a lot of the top-level Zergs struggle against this sort of thing, but what if Serral plays against it? I'm really curious to see what Serral would do against this sort of thing. If it's a Spirit versus Serral game, or a series, I think Serral is the favorite, probably like, no disrespect to Spirit, but probably 20-1. Because Serral is just so dominant. But then I look at this type of game, and it's starting to feel a little bit desperate now for Shin. Despite the fact that Shin is maxed out, he's got all the upgrades, he's got a good chunk of change in the bank, he's just not achieving anything. Shin, by the way, not opting to go for that mass swarm host transition. I've got a feeling that the way Serral would deal with something like this is to stop it before it gets to this position. I'm pretty sure when it's here, like when we've arrived here, I'm fairly sure it is a near unwinnable game for Zerg. And I'm not 100% convinced that that is really true. It's just that I've not really ever seen Spirit lose when he gets to this position. It seems to be insanely strong. Maybe Swarmos, though, is the way to do it. It's a weird spot to transition to right now, but you need something more cost efficient. And at this point, look at the cost efficiency here. Well, oh my god, I was saying he should aim for a 2-to-1 ratio, but he should never get that. Look at this! Look at this! Oh, incredible cost efficiency here for Spirit. Again, Shin going in through the center. He's now brought a lot of Corruptors. This is still a very difficult Zerg army to deal with, and obviously that is ultimately what he needs to do. Still, though, this Zerg army is kind of stuck between the Neon Violet squares and all of the other things going on this map. A little bit of a splitty against the Banelings. Corruptors up in the air. We've got some Blinding Clouds being thrown down, but Shin is just not achieving anything. Command centers get softened up a little bit, and we did have a decent trade, I suppose. But look, the cost efficiency is ludicrous. This is, by the way, something that makes a lot of Zerg players salty. If you're enjoying this, first of all, very nice. You're probably a filthy Terran player. or just a StarCraft enjoyer. This makes a lot of Zerg players very mad, but it is something unique, and it's not really something we see all too often, so I like watching this sort of thing. It is pretty glorious. As painful as I know this is to play against, it is very unique in modern StarCraft to see somebody play this passive of a game. Now, this is not, by the way, like I'm talking as if this game is already in the bag. It is by no means in the bag yet for Spirit. I mean, resources-wise and mining-wise, this is looking actually very strong for SHIN. SHIN has got a lot of money in the bank still. He can still make whatever army he likes. Problem for him, though, is that the Zerg armies have been mediocre over the last few years. Like, proper Zerg maxed out armies in the ultimate late game just don't pack the same level of punch as that of the Terran or that of the Protoss. SHIN is trying to do this by making crazy tech transitions. So we're going from like Mass Roach Ravager into Mass Ling Bane, and then some Ultras and Infestors and Blinding Cloud and Hydras and Lurkers and now Brute Lurk. Like, he's building everything. And the idea is that Terran obviously can't really counter everything. But Spirit is already preparing. We have our Thors on the production tab. More Ghosts are coming up. This is the type of army where you don't need a ton of siege tanks anymore. I like, by the way, that he's gone back to Marine production. Very good to see. He's now seen the Brute Lords, though, for what I think is the very first time. And this is still a scary army. Some snipes going in. Fungal Growth attempted there. Gets a couple of the units, but the Brutes are actually starting to really plow through this right now. Nice transition here from SHIN. More Infestors coming up, so he's trying to go into Brute Lord Infestor here eventually. So this was, by the way, full Ghost mech. And then Spirit looked at the Zerg army and decided, no, I'm actually going to add more Marines and Marauders back. That's weird. We don't normally see that, but I think it is indeed the right call. Marines and Marauders are very efficient. Notice, by the way, how Spirit is also getting rid of his SCVs. He's now only at 38. So his army supply count, just the total amount of supply he's got available, since he's capped, of course, at 200, is looking massive. It's a little difficult to see exactly what's going on with all of those Overseers and Medivacs covering the screen, but Zerg is retreating back to the safety of the static defense, and that is, well, Spirit was just trying to hold on. He doesn't really care about attacking. He can, well, get some bonus damage done over here, I suppose, but this is looking really nice for the Polish Terran. So we have 15 over here, plus 6. 21, 22, 23, 24? How many did I say? Oh my god, how many command centers did I say? Dude, the problem is with me getting it right. I think I said 26, didn't I? I don't remember. The problem is if I do get it right, people are gonna accuse me of pre-watching the game, and I swear to god I haven't seen this game, dude. I think I said 24. I think, well, I was talking about how 25 was too many. I think I got it right, dude. I suggest to celebrate me getting something right for once, that we all hit the like button. How about that? To celebrate Loco being correct once upon a time. I mean, the game is not over yet. Maybe I'll add more command centers, although you really shouldn't. Push coming in. Fungal Growth attempted. Thank you, by the way. Appreciate it. I mean, I'm assuming you hit the like button. Thank you, dude. The Overseers are actually very dangerous here. Difficult for Terran to find a good engagement. He would love to cloak the Ghosts. Can't really get it done. He keeps running away now. I love the differentiation back right here towards those Banelings too. Fungal Growth is attempted, but he does not quite reach it onto the Ghosts. Still, though, that means that the rest of the Zerg army is now plowing through whatever they can hit. Liberators joining in the fray as well. Overseer siege up to try and cover as much of the screen as possible. The same reason why those changelings are here is just to try and be a nuisance. Oh, banger of an engagement here, but Spirit's supply count, look at it, is looking momentous. SHIN has spent his mineral bank. SHIN is flat broke. GG. What a game. One more? Let's do one more. We find ourselves on a map called Killer Smile, and spotting right here in the top right-hand corner, playing with the blue Terran SCVs. You know them, you love them. We have, of course, Spirit. His opponent down in the bottom left with the red Zerg drones. We're looking at Rogue's main hatchery. So, I mentioned I did cast a long game between these two players a couple of weeks ago. Absolute banger of a game. I highly recommend you go ahead and check it out. I realized after I cast that one-off match that the game was actually part of a best-of-3 series. This is another game from that best-of-3 series. Now, I had a brief little look at this replay timer too. It's another long one. It's another long one. I'm pretty sure. So it's actually kind of funny. If you ever do like a StarCraft tournament, or especially with offline events, it's quite common for the people that like plan the day to calculate about 45 or so minutes for a best-of-3 series. Usually it's about 45 minutes for a best-of-3, like an hour 15 for a best-of-5. This has been a running joke for a while in the StarCraft universe that when you do a best-of-3 for Spirit, you probably have to calculate in a best-of-5 time. And, well, if you don't prepare as a tournament organizer accordingly, you might just accidentally spend half of your broadcast casting a single series featuring the Polish Terran player. Anyway, apparently their best-of-3 they played was a bit of a long one. Now, Killer Smile, this is from the Team Liquid map contest, by the way. This is a map made by a map creator called Killer Smile. So the map is called Killer's Mile. The map creator is called Killer Smile, which is a terrible pun. I kind of like it. It's a lot better, though, than, well, many of the map names that we have come accustomed to. Ooh, Italian cuisine? Whatever this says? What is this? Some sort of labs over here. Sick, dude. We can go to the laboratory, to the Supernova Men's Club, and then eventually get some Italian cuisine too? What a day. Now, I like the look of this map in general. However, it certainly is a very defensive one. So, there's a lot of easy bases to take. Specifically, the rocks over here, I guess, make it pretty easy for, well, players to hold on to their natural expansion. You can definitely play normal macro builds. And I think it's relatively easy for, well, for example, Spirit to build a lot more command centers. If that's what he's planning on doing. It's going to be a triple CC at 1-1-1. Hellion production will begin. So this is a different player, of course, from our previous contestant. It is going to be Rogue rather than Shin. I rate Rogue ever so slightly higher than Shin. A lot of that also is just, though, due to the fact that Rogue is the more successful and more accomplished tournament player over the years. Shin has got his own fair share of wins. Don't get me wrong, and he's taken down and beaten the best of the best. But Rogue has been doing this thing for a very long time, and Rogue has always been an absolute monster in the late game. So he's the one that went for that mass swarm host transition in the other game that they played in this best-of-3 series. So, let's see. Where do we go from here? I'm assuming it will take a very similar approach to what we saw from Shin just now, but then a different late-game transition. Rogue, by the way, one of the few StarCraft millionaires as far as tournament earnings go. I always think that's a nice thing to mention. Rogue's been around for a long time, and he wins the biggest tournaments when it counts the most. When there's a lot of money on the line, Rogue's like, yo, buddy, let me put in a bit of practice. See how it goes. Nice attempted ball off here. Building the Evo chamber, and he wanted to go for a Spore Crawler there too, but he didn't need it. Some people consider Rogue to be the greatest StarCraft 2 player of all time. I find that a highly questionable choice. Especially in 2025. It is pretty apparent to me that Rogue is not the GOAT, but he is certainly top 3. Certainly top 3 greatest players of all time. I don't think there's really a whole lot of debate as far as that goes. I mean, it's always either Serral, Maru, or Rogue. That was the discussion in, like, 2019. Since then, Serral has continued dominating, whereas the other two just haven't quite been up to the same level. So in my mind, that discussion is pretty well settled, because Serral just is an absolute monster. Good bit of damage done here by Spirit, though. Actually dealing a lot of damage. I mean, I say that. Dang, dude, he's only lost 4 workers? Well, now 5. Now a few more. Not as amazing, actually, as I thought it was gonna be. Keeping this Banshee around is super nice. Yeah, we saw it being so annoying in that previous game. 10 drones is pretty good, but now it's for 8 Hellions. Eh. Yeah. I'm actually not entirely sure. Let me look at esports earnings real quick. So they keep track of all of the tournament games. This is not 100% accurate for the earnings. Yeah, so Cero is actually sitting at 1.66 million as far as tournament earnings goes. Not bad. Maru's sitting at 135. Dark at 1.2. Rogue at 1.1. And Clem actually in 5th place with 830,000. I mean, to be fair, he won the World Championships for like $500,000 last year, so I guess that's that's a good healthy chunk of the change there. But yeah, nice to see somebody, at least when it comes to these other guys, right, who's relatively new to the pro gaming scene, although obviously at this point Clem has been around for a long time. But still, as far as compared to like Maru's been around since literally 2010. Rogue, I don't think much later than that. Getting very high up. Now, of course, that is taking into consideration that one Bitcoin tournament. There was that one Bitcoin tournament where I think it was 4th to 8th place, earned like 25 Bitcoin. I don't remember who won, or rather who got 4th to 8th in that particular StarCraft, or I guess 5th to 8th. It was like $1,000 first place price. And 5th to 8th got a whole lot of Bitcoin. That was a long time ago. I'm assuming that they don't have that anymore. Yeah. One of the running memes in the StarCraft world. I see that picture pop up on the StarCraft 2 subreddit about 7 times a year. It's together with that basketball team playing Brute War on a private plane. There's a couple of pictures that just make their rounds every once in a while. Anyway. Obviously, by the way, all these numbers I'm mentioning are all, well, pre-tax and without any promotional or team salary or all the rest of it. And obviously, it's really hard to say how much the players actually have earned realistically, because, I mean, a place like Finland, for example, very high income taxes. Most of Europe, actually, very high income taxes, but I know Finland in particular. All right, pretty extreme. But obviously, there's a lot of different business setups that you can... Anyways, let's see. Spirit actually going for an attack right now with a pretty healthy amount of Marines. So he is actually the one being aggressive at this point in time, not really playing for the long game so much. This is him actually doing a full 8 Rex all-in. So triple CC, full 8 Rex. Is there enough for the Terran to overwhelm this? He's killed the Roach Warren. He's losing the majority of his troops in the back. Rogue is seemingly holding this relatively easily, though. And the problem here for Spirit is that this is a super committed attack. Very, very dangerous for the Terran to execute this attack and then not immediately win. Problem for him is that he's now kind of in this awkward position where he's got 8 barracks on 3 bases, no additional command centers. It's kind of funny, by the way, to see Spirit play the exact polar opposite of the Terran strats. This is the most all-in-y version of a macro build, I suppose. So maybe it makes sense. Yeah, he's now going to try and sneak out a 4th command center, but this base is now minutes later than it normally would have been in a regular game of StarCraft 2. And Rogue obviously has got this massive army still left over from earlier. He's going to test the waters a little bit. No council on the 4th command center. I don't think Spirit really wants to be playing against Rogue's late game so much. No council, it looks like. Nope, that hatchery was not selected. Marines are now still marching up towards the high ground. Spirit hasn't really done enough damage, though, to properly transition towards a macro game. Maybe these Marines can change the tide of battle, because they're already getting in a lot of work. He's going to just target down the hatchery. Okay, we need something big, and he gets the job done. Push over here up north. Also, snipes a hatch. Spirit comes in clutch after, well, I think we can safely call it failing his 3cc all-in. He comes in with an awkward second wave of Marines and snipes 2 bases. That is by far the best he could have hoped for. He decides to celebrate by making an extra command center in the main base, right next to the 4th one that he restarted. You'll love to see that. And this is one of the downsides of playing that Roach, Hydra, Viper-based unit composition. Yeah, you can deal with every army straight up, but it's very immobile compared to like a Ling Bane army. You just don't have that much mobility around the map. And you can tell here that Rogue did not expect that at all. He was forced to go all the way back home. Just a bunch of medevac drops, cutting him off. And that now makes this game very awkward. Where do we go from here? How do we decide what we do next? Well, Spirit knows what we do. We're gonna try. We're gonna try and do some good old macro gaming. We tried something new. We tried something that we're not known for. Now it's time for us to sit back and let the Zerg player come to us. Of course, this changes the dynamic a lot, though, because normally you can sort of guesstimate what the current state of the game is. Obviously, Spirit's cost efficiency is not nearly as good as it was in the previous game. We don't really have the infrastructure to be setting up a proper late game from here. We don't have, well, all of the factory production. We're lacking the upgrades. Armory is there, but he hasn't really begun researching much yet. Now finally gets it going, but it changes the entire dynamic of the game. So if we're once more aiming to mine 50% of the map, how much has Zerg mined already? In the previous game, it's an assumption you can make. At this point, since we already know that Zerg had 5 bases, not as easy. So we just make the best of it. Because of this, though, I like this spot better for Rogue. I think Rogue, despite losing 2 hatcheries here, is okay. Because he has that tech advantage and he's got himself some more time. And time ultimately is the most important resource in this game. Spirit, though, is celebrating. We're making command center after command center. We're making another factory. Ghost production has begun. Fair enough. My coffee's gone cold, dude. My coffee's gone cold. I'm wondering what... No. No. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. It's okay. I will still consume the cold coffee. We're not letting the precious coffee juice go to... Coffee juice is really gross. Ugh. Anyway. We're not letting it go to waste is what I'm saying. Little attack coming in again actually from Spirit. And I like this a lot. You know what? This is actually really nice game sense for Spirit. The fact that he is not sitting behind his command centers, but is actually moving out onto the map right now with his army is amazing. Yeah, normally this would be the moment where Zerg is striking because, well, they have lurkers. Spirit is making it look like he's doing some sort of extended all-in. Now, I think at this point, yeah, Rogue figures out with all of the changelings and the lurkers here that this isn't a big macro game. But this was kind of looking like a second wave to like a completely committed all-in here from Spirit. So Rogue decided to play this passively, and he's paying the price for it now. Changelings available though. Nidus Worm in the back of the main. One Marauder has been tasked with killing this. Gets the job done. We need to get the ranged upgrade for the planetary. A Roach counterattack. Problem for the Roaches here is that obviously they're not very useful anymore. They're taking up a lot of supply and they're not really adding that much into the mix. So we're just trying to get a cost-efficient trait with them, supposedly. At least that's what Rogue is aiming for. The entirety of the Terran army is going back home now to try and deal with this attack. I don't think the Roaches are going to get that much value. I think this is going to just get cleaned up. In a straight-up engagement, Marine Marauder Ghost trashes this type of army. Still though, there's a Zerg infestation in the main base. The Nidus Worms are starting to put in a lot of work. SCVs are falling, and keep in mind, this is not a comfortable game for Spirit at all. He doesn't have the mass command center style yet. Goes in, tries to snipe as many of those units as he possibly can. It's an absolute disaster here, though, for Spirit. The main base just in a world of trouble. Losing important production structures, too. Even some creep is now starting to block any of those expansions. Okay, rather than committing to stimming into the spines, we're trying to push across the map to try and get those lurkers to come back home for base defense. You know what? That may just be what Rogue is going to do. He doesn't have that much at home. That's going to be another hatchery down. No cancel on that again. Scan is going to reveal some of those units as Spirit is just trying to deal whatever damage he can. A handful of lurkers, though, on the other side of the map now. It's only 3. It's not that much. They're expensive, though. So Rogue can't really make that many, and this main base is just in a world of trouble. It's never going to be restarted. Spirit is saying, yo, if you want to sit behind your lurkers, great. I'll just go and pick off any of the outer expansions. And Rogue, this is starting to become a very uncomfortable game right now for the both of them. Looks like a command center is going to burn down. At least unless an SCV or a mule can repair it up to full, but no, it does not quite get repaired in time. This barracks is going to burn down as well. Just a handful of lurkers trying to be a nuisance. Looks like eventually, with most of the lurkers going back home and some reinforcing Hydras, the Terran army decides to step off creep. But I gotta hand it to Spirit here. Very nicely managed. Impressively so, actually. This is not an easy spot for Terran at all. It shows here that he's not just like a one-dimensional Terran player, you know? He's just doing the same thing over and over and over again. This is legit. This is real gaming. Okay. Ooh, dangerous stim. Very scary stim, but he gets it done. Oof. And that's a big loss for Rogue. Now, Rogue still has a very significant supply advantage. But Rogue is now kind of busy trying to stabilize on his own side of the map. Since a round of Zerglings around. Fair enough. I think both players actually kind of want to go back right now to comfortable. Neither player has been comfortable for the last couple minutes. I'm fairly sure we want to continue to comfort here, at least as Terran, but Rogue may just continue being a jerk inside of the main base. Honestly, at this point, the main base is lost. There's nothing anymore going on here for Spirit, so may as well just forget that that expansion ever existed. Problem is, though, that lurkers can also shoot their spines down to the low ground. This command center got denied mining for a little bit. Same for the lurker over here. Overlord has been put in position to get that high ground vision. Dude, this is a beautiful game. 17.5 minutes in. Really hard to say who I'm favoring in this position. Okay, so as the dust settles, where are we? Terran's fully upgraded at 3-3, but only a single upgrade for Terran mech. Rogue is starting up his melee upgrades right now. He's got the missile and the armor, but not very useful in a late game. I mean, lurkers obviously benefit from it too, but lurkers do a lot of damage as it is. He's not really set up to make easy transitions towards anything else. No Greater Spire or Ultras or even Swarm Hosts that he can easily make here. I mean, Swarm Hosts being the easiest answer, of course, but not really a position that you're really in. Main base is going to be retreated now, it seems, or, well, Rogue was thinking about it. He was thinking, nah, maybe I'll stick around a little bit longer. Okay. You know what we need? Command centers. Yeah. When in doubt, get your security CCs out. I'm pretty sure Spirit, when he was a little boy, had like a stuffed command center, you know? Couldn't sleep without it. He's been snuggling command centers for many, many years. It's a beautiful thing. Let's see how it goes. Really? We're gonna go into Banelings right now. I'm not sure if I like Banelings too much. Rogue's thinking that it's a good idea, especially against a full Ling. Oh, this is a push. Oh, this is a good attack, though. Yeah, that lurker group is going to absolutely destroy the command center. I think he wants to use the Banelings to try and kill the Ghosts and the Marines. I love the Nidus Worm here as a ways to retreat. Zergling run by over here in the meantime. Yeah, I think you have to go back home to try and stop this Terran counterattack. Spirit trying to cut his opponent off. These are now Zerglings with Adrenal Glands and +1. Not a bad unit to have. Zergling counterattack in the meantime. Hydra's coming up. But I feel like Banelings are not really the... Maybe. I don't think they're really worth the gas, though. They're very cost inefficient. Very nice when you think you're leading the game, which is why I got a little bit worried when we saw it on the production tab. Maybe he wants to just keep it around as like a finisher blow, you know? Like, say Terran makes a misstep. You're rolling the Banelings. Bada boom. Game is over. But generally, I don't think you really want to be making Banelings here when you are even, or in this particular instance, I think actually Rogue is starting to fall behind. Okay. Maybe getting rid of the Nidus Worm over here would not be a bad idea. Rogue's thinking, oh, maybe I can actually go and head on over in that direction. It is going to be a lot of lurkers, a lot of hydras, and a bunch of vipers up in the air. Hydra lurker viper is a classic unit composition for Zerg. It deals a lot of damage. And it, of course, has the potential to just straight up win the game. This is all really good. This attack over here is clearly something that Spirit needs to worry about, because this is the second time in like 3 minutes that the push comes in. And it doesn't really get stopped. Like, it doesn't get halted at all. 21 additional SCVs go down. What about the drop on the other side of the map now, though? Obviously, there's no lurkers here. Handful of hydras. Not ideal. Night is Worm inside of the main base. Nice and all, but that's where the old main base was. And maybe this can actually equalize the situation for Spirit. Yeah, he just lost a ton of SCVs, but now he's dealing an equal number of damage here on the other side of the map to the opponent's drones, and he gets a bunch of hydras to boot as well, plus a hatchery. Not bad at all. In the meantime, we have some snipies going down as well onto the overseers. I mean, I like what Roke is doing here in theory. It's just that there's very little to be gained. Like, he's going for this big Knight is in the main base and just sends... But everything's already dead. You've already killed everything. You can deny this expansion, I guess. That's a little sloppy. We should not have seen that CC die. Main problem is, of course, all of the tech that is over here on the low ground, and this position in general is just not an easy one to clean up. But honestly, Spirit doesn't have to go up towards the high ground. He should certainly not be marching his bio army up the ramp. At least it's buying some time for Zerg, but it's not a very cost-efficient trade. Hydra Lunge available for Rogue as he's trying to see if he can snipe a couple of those medevacs before they go back home. Honestly, beautiful games here by Spirit. Very impressed. This game is actually very complex. Like, the fact that he transitioned to this after being in a full 3cc all-in is kind of nutty. Maybe I'm just used to seeing Terrans go for a 3cc all-in because they can't play macro games. And they're, you know, they just want to get the games over with before like minute 12. But Spirit went for that push. It's a little out of character. And then he transitioned from that situation into this. Okay. 34 SCVs remain, though. And the big difference between this game and the previous one is that we just have very low ecos for both players. Neither of them has a bank. Neither of them is maxed out. Neither of them has a ton of workers. How many CCs do we have? We have a bunch, but only 3 orbitals, which is not ideal. And that means that Zerg can really start... Oh, God, these fishes are... The fishing here with the Viper's harpoons is insanely effective. Spirit can't really make a transition towards, like, a proper late-game army. No, like, mass Ghost Liberator, none of that sort of thing. His economy is still looking decent. The main advantage, of course, that Terran has, though, at this point is just straight-up supply. He still has money in the bank, too. 177 versus 131 is not ideal. Roke is starting to fizzle out. In a straight-up fight, he can't win. There's no way that Roke can win a straight-up engagement. He also can't easily make a lot more drones. He's trying that out right now, making 9 additional workers, but... yeah, I think he kind of needs to do that. There's no way that he can really harass his opponent to death. The problem is Spirit has this big mobile army, and he's not afraid to use it aggressively. He's not playing that super passive style where he's just sitting back. We're gonna go full aggression here whenever it's needed. The way he's scanning, though, is making this look like Terran has got a dozen command centers with orbital commands on it, but not the case. Missile turret coming up together with a sensor tower. Ooh. Okay, some decent snipes. Some good lurker hits as well, though. Another abduction there. Terran drop in the far top left. Very important. Night is Worm, though, moving on over towards the far bottom right. These lurkers going down is extremely costly for Rogue and a great trade for Spirit. Only a handful of lurkers now remain, just 3 of them. This medevac drop in the top left. Not microed perfectly here by Spirit, but to be fair, he was very busy doing other things. The 3 lurkers that are still available now decide to tunnel towards the bottom right. And I believe that indeed they are going to be, well, able to get rid of that command center, but maybe the rest of the Terran army is going to push up towards the high ground, and that's exactly what happens. Hydra's a little bit delayed from the rest of the party. We did see a blinding cloud, and it's still sort of up over here. Ghosts, though, decide to activate their cloaking. and without detection available. It's Spirit who obtains the victory in some excellent games of StarCraft 2.